I joked, "You love me." But the alien woman smiled and whispered, "How did you know?" HFY Saga. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Accord 3 years ago. 3 years was not a long time in galactic history. Many species had been part of the Accord for thousands of years. Because of that, humans were still seen as a new and strange species. Most aliens had the same opinion about them. Humans were unpredictable. They talked too much. They joked too much. They asked too many questions. And sometimes they laughed at moments when other species stayed completely serious. But humans also had something unusual. They were friendly, very friendly. Because of that, humans quickly became popular on space stations where many species lived together. One of those stations was Halcyon Orbital Station. Halcyon was one of the largest diplomatic stations in this part of the galaxy. It floated peacefully above a giant blue gas planet called Taurun. From the station windows, people could see endless clouds and lightning storms moving slowly across the planet's surface. Ships from dozens of star systems arrived there every day. Traders, diplomats, scientists, explorers, and of course, maintenance workers. One of those workers was Daniel Carter. Daniel was not a soldier. He was not a scientist or a diplomat either. He was simply a station maintenance technician. His job was simple: fix broken things, check gravity systems, repair air filters, and sometimes explain human technology to confused aliens. Daniel did not mind the job. In fact, he liked it. Every day he met new species. Some were tall and quiet. Some were small and energetic. Some had 4 arms. Some had glowing eyes. After 3 years working on Halcyon Station, Daniel had learned one important lesson about the galaxy. No matter how strange aliens looked, most of them were actually pretty nice. Well, most of them. One afternoon, Daniel received a repair request from Sector C-19. The message said the gravity stabilizer panel near the observation window was not responding correctly. That meant someone needed to fix it before the artificial gravity started acting strangely. Daniel grabbed his toolbox and walked through the station corridors. The halls of Halcyon were always busy. Aliens from many species walked past him. A tall insect-like merchant hurried by while talking to a translator device. 2 floating gas beings drifted slowly down the hall. A group of small reptilian engineers argued loudly about ship engines. Daniel smiled. Just another normal day on Halcyon Station. After a few minutes, he reached Sector C-19. This part of the station was quieter than the rest. Large windows looked out into space, giving visitors a perfect view of Taurun below. Daniel stepped inside the observation room and immediately noticed he was not alone. Someone was standing near the large window. A tall figure with smooth silver skin and long, elegant posture. Soft glowing lines moved slowly under her skin like gentle light. Daniel recognized the species instantly. Valari. He had only seen a few of them before. The Valari were known across the galaxy for being extremely intelligent and very calm. They rarely showed strong emotions, and they spoke very carefully. Many species respected them. Some species were even a little afraid of them. The woman near the window was watching the blue storms of Taurun far below. For a moment, Daniel just stood there quietly. The glowing lines on her skin shifted slowly like flowing light. Finally, Daniel cleared his throat. Excuse me." The alien woman turned around. Her eyes were bright and focused. She looked directly at him. "Human Daniel Carter," she said calmly. Daniel blinked in surprise. "You know my name?" "Yes." Her voice was smooth and quiet. "The Valari remember every individual we meet." Daniel scratched the back of his head. "Wow, that's impressive." He lifted his toolbox slightly. "Sorry to interrupt. I'm here to repair the gravity panel." She nodded and stepped aside politely. "Of course." Daniel walked over to the wall panel and opened it. Inside were several small gravity regulators and energy connectors. As he began working, he could still feel her watching him. After a few seconds, she spoke again. "Human Daniel Carter." "Yeah." Humans behave differently from most species. Daniel smiled while tightening a small connector. "That's a nice way of saying we're weird." She tilted her head slightly. That is an accurate description. Daniel laughed quietly. Well, we like to keep things interesting. The alien woman studied him carefully. Daniel noticed something strange. The glowing lines under her skin had changed color slightly. They were brighter now. He pointed toward them. Those glowing marks, do they mean something? Yes. They reflect emotional states. Daniel leaned back a little. So right now you're feeling what exactly? She answered immediately. Curiosity. Daniel smiled proudly. Good. That means I'm not boring. For the next several minutes, Daniel continued repairing the gravity panel while they talked. The conversation was simple but surprisingly enjoyable. She asked questions about Earth. Daniel told her about oceans, forests, and cities filled with millions of people. She asked about human food. Daniel explained pizza. That conversation alone lasted almost 5 minutes. The Valari woman seemed especially confused about why humans like cheese so much. Eventually, Daniel closed the repair panel. All done, he said. Gravity should behave normally again. She nodded. That is good news. For a moment, both of them stood quietly near the observation window. Outside, lightning flashed across the giant clouds of Taurun. Daniel glanced at her glowing markings again. They were brighter now. Those colors changed again, he said. Yes. What does it mean this time? She paused. Interest. Daniel laughed softly. Well, I'm glad someone finds maintenance work interesting. She looked at him calmly. It is not the work that interests me. Daniel blinked. Oh. There was a slightly awkward silence. Daniel suddenly felt a little nervous, though he did not know why. So he did what many humans do when they feel awkward. He made a joke. Well, he said casually, careful. If you talk to humans too long, you might start liking us. She replied immediately. That process has already begun. Daniel chuckled. See? That's how it starts. He pointed to himself jokingly. Next thing you know, you'll fall in love with one of us. He grinned. Probably me. He expected confusion. Maybe polite silence. Instead, something very surprising happened. The glowing lines across her silver skin suddenly became much brighter. She stepped closer and smiled. It was a very small smile, but it was definitely a smile. Then she leaned close to his ear. Her voice was soft. How did you know? Daniel froze. Know what? Her eyes were warm and calm. That I love you. Daniel's brain stopped working. Completely. He just stared at her in shock. Wait, what? Before he could say anything else, the station alarm suddenly screamed through the entire sector. Red lights flashed across the walls. A loud automated voice echoed through the station. Warning! Unknown fleet approaching. Daniel turned toward the observation window, and his heart nearly stopped. Dozens of massive warships had appeared in space. Dark, silent, dangerous. They surrounded the station like hunters surrounding prey. Daniel whispered slowly, That's not good. The Valari woman stared at the fleet with a serious expression. For the first time since he met her, the glowing lines on her skin turned deep red. Fear. Then she looked back at him. Her voice was calm but urgent. Daniel Carter. Yes. You may have just become the most important human on this station. Daniel blinked. I have a very bad feeling about that. Outside the window, the unknown fleet moved closer, and the galaxy was about to change. The alarms continued to echo across Halcyon Orbital Station. Red warning lights flashed along the walls and ceiling. Doors automatically locked in some areas, while security teams rushed through the corridors. Outside the observation window, the stars were slowly disappearing behind the dark shapes of incoming ships. Daniel Carter stood frozen beside the window. Dozens of massive warships surrounded the station. Their black metal hulls looked cold and silent against the bright blue storms of Taurun below. Daniel swallowed. That's a lot of ships. Beside him, the Valari woman watched the fleet with a calm but serious face. Her glowing markings had turned a deep red color. Daniel remembered what she said earlier. Those markings showed emotions, and red meant fear. That made Daniel even more nervous. Okay, Daniel said slowly, trying to stay calm. I'm guessing those are not friendly visitors. The woman shook her head slightly. No. Daniel sighed. Of course not. He looked again at the fleet outside. Some of the ships were enormous. Even from far away, he could see large weapon arrays along their sides. This station doesn't have enough weapons for that, Daniel said. That is correct, the Valari woman replied. Daniel turned to her. You said something a minute ago. She looked at him. You said, I might be the most important human on the station. Daniel pointed at himself. Why me? For a moment she did not answer. Instead, she walked close to the window and looked at the approaching fleet again. The ships belong to the Keth Dominion, she said quietly. Daniel crossed his arms. Should I know who that is? They are conquerors. Daniel nodded slowly. Yeah, that sounds bad. The Keth Dominion expands by force. They destroy resistance and take control of systems. Daniel looked back at the ships. And they decided today was a good day to attack a diplomatic station? No. She turned to face him again. They came for something specific. Daniel frowned. And that something is... Her glowing markings shifted slightly. You. Daniel blinked. Then he laughed. Good one. She did not laugh. Her expression stayed completely serious. Daniel's smile slowly disappeared. You're not joking. No. Daniel rubbed his face. Okay, I'm just a maintenance guy. I fix gravity panels and air filters. He pointed at the fleet. Those guys did not travel across space for that. She stepped closer. You misunderstand your importance. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Trust me, I don't. For a moment, she studied him carefully. Then she spoke again. Tell me something, Daniel Carter. Yeah. Do humans often make emotional attachments quickly? Daniel thought about it. Yeah, pretty much. She nodded slightly. Do humans protect people they care about? Of course. Even if it is dangerous? Daniel shrugged. Yeah, that's normal. The glowing lines across her skin brightened slightly. That is what makes humans unique. Daniel looked confused. Unique how? Most advanced species control their emotions carefully. They avoid strong attachments because emotions can affect decisions. Daniel leaned against the wall. And humans don't do that. Correct. Daniel smiled. Yeah, we're not very good at emotional control. That is not a weakness. Daniel looked surprised. It isn't. No. She looked at the fleet again. In fact, it may be the greatest strength humanity has. Daniel stared at her. I'm definitely missing something here. She turned fully toward him now. My species, the Valari, has studied humans since your arrival in the Galactic Accord. Daniel blinked. You studied us? Yes. She looked at the growing fleet outside, then back at him. They do not understand. How many humans might come to protect you? Daniel stared at her. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he slowly turned to look at the fleet again. I think things are about to get very interesting. And far away, across the stars, humanity was already beginning to move. The observation room of Halcyon Orbital Station had become strangely quiet. Outside the large window, the dark ships of the Keth Dominion slowly surrounded the station like silent predators. Their engines glowed faintly in the darkness of space. Daniel Carter stood near the window, staring at them. He still could not believe what was happening. Just an hour ago, he had been fixing a gravity panel. Now an entire alien fleet wanted him. Daniel sighed. This is the worst workday I've ever had. Beside him, Elwaressa watched the fleet calmly. Her silver skin reflected the light from the warning alarms. The glowing lines beneath her skin were bright, but they were no longer red with fear. Now they looked calm, focused. Daniel noticed that. You're not scared anymore, he said. She turned toward him. I am concerned. That's the calmest way I've ever heard someone say that. Outside the station, one of the Dominion ships moved closer. The alien commander spoke again through the station speakers. Halcyon Station, you have 5 minutes. The deep voice echoed through every corridor. Deliver the human known as Daniel Carter. Daniel rubbed his forehead. They really don't like waiting. LYRS stepped closer to window. They are confident. Why? Because they believe they already won. Daniel looked at her. And they're wrong. Yes. Daniel crossed his arms. I really hope you're right. For a moment, both of them watched the ships outside. The fleet was enormous. Some ships were long and sharp like metal spears. Others were round and heavy, covered with weapon systems. Daniel could see small fighter craft moving around the larger ships. There were many of them. Too many. Finally, Daniel asked a question that had been bothering him. So what exactly is the plan? Elwiresa looked at him. You are asking me? Yes. You are the unpredictable species. Daniel laughed softly. That is not a plan. No, she said calmly, but it is often effective. Daniel sighed again. Well, if the galaxy expects something unpredictable from humans, I guess I shouldn't disappoint them. Before Elwiresa could reply, the door behind them suddenly opened. 3 station security officers entered the observation room. They were from different species, but they all wore the same dark blue uniform of the Galactic Accord. The leader stepped forward. Daniel Carter? Daniel raised his hand slowly. That's me. The officer looked serious. The station council is requesting your presence. Daniel pointed toward the window. You mean because of the angry space fleet? Yes. Daniel nodded. That makes sense. The officer turned to Elwiresa. High Strategist Elwiresa, the council also asked for your guidance. She nodded calmly. We will come. A few minutes later, they arrived at the station command center. The room was large and filled with holographic screens showing the situation outside. The Dominion fleet surrounded the station in a wide circle. Red warning markers covered the display. Several members of the Galactic Accord Council were present. Different species stood around the central table. A tall, insect-like diplomat, a floating energy being, 2 reptilian engineers, and several others. When Daniel and Elwiresa entered the room, everyone turned toward them. The insect diplomat spoke first. So this is the human they want. Daniel waved awkwardly. Hello. The reptilian engineer looked annoyed. We should simply surrender him. Daniel frowned. Hey! The floating energy being spoke next. The Dominion fleet could destroy the station. Daniel looked around the room. Well, that's not very encouraging. Finally, the insect diplomat turned to Elwiresa. High Strategist, what do you advise? The room became silent. Elwiresa stepped forward calmly. The Dominion believes capturing Daniel Carter will give them control over me. The council members nodded. That is their assumption, said the reptilian engineer. Daniel raised his hand. I still think it's a bad plan. The engineer ignored him. What matters is survival of the station. Elwiresa spoke again. The Dominion believes humans will not respond quickly. The insect diplomat tilted his head. And is that incorrect? Elwiresa looked at Daniel. Yes. Daniel suddenly realized what she meant. You called someone. No. Daniel blinked. Then who did? She answered calmly. Humans. The council members looked confused. What does that mean? The energy being asked. Before she could answer, one of the holographic displays suddenly flashed. A station technician shouted from across the room. New hyperspace signatures detected. Everyone turned toward the main screen. Bright points of light suddenly appeared in the dark space near the station. 1, 2, 5, 10. More and more signals appeared every second. The technician looked shocked. Multiple ships arriving. Daniel leaned forward. Those aren't Dominion ships. The first ship appeared from hyperspace. It was smaller than the Dominion warships. But Daniel recognized the design instantly. Human, a long gray cruiser with blue engine lights. Then another ship appeared. And another. Cargo vessels, exploration ships, security patrol ships, mining transports, civilian freighters. More and more human ships jumped into the system. The command center became silent as everyone watched. The number kept growing. 20 ships, 30, 50. The insect diplomat whispered quietly. Where did they come from? Daniel smiled slightly. Everywhere. The reptilian engineer stared at the screen. These are not military vessels. Daniel nodded. Nope. The engineer looked confused. Then why are they here? Daniel shrugged, probably because someone asked for help. LYRS spoke softly. Human communication networks spread information very quickly. The technician confirmed it. Emergency messages from Halcyon were received across several human colonies. Daniel smiled. Humans talk a lot. More ships continued arriving. Some were small personal craft. Some were large cargo carriers. A few were official Earth defense ships. Soon the number passed 100 vessels. The Dominion fleet noticed. Their ships began adjusting formation. Weapons powered up. The alien commander spoke again through the speakers. Unknown fleet, identify yourselves. For a moment there was silence. Then a calm human voice answered. This is Captain Morales of the Earth cruiser Liberty Dawn. Daniel recognized the accent. Definitely human. The captain continued. We received a distress signal from Halcyon Station. The Dominion commander replied coldly. The situation does not concern you. Captain Morales answered immediately. Actually, it does. The alien commander paused. Explain. The human captain's voice became firm. You demanded the surrender of a human citizen. Daniel leaned back in his chair. That would be me. Captain Morales continued speaking. That makes the situation very much our business. More human ships arrived behind the cruiser. The screen filled with friendly signals. The insect diplomat looked amazed. They came to protect one human? Daniel shrugged again. Yeah, that sounds like us. The Dominion commander sounded irritated. You cannot defeat the Dominion fleet. Captain Morales replied calmly. Maybe not. There was a short pause. Then she added something unexpected. But we're not here to fight alone. The command center became quiet again. Daniel frowned. What does that mean? Before anyone could answer, another group of hyperspace signatures appeared on the display. New ships jumped into the system. But these ships were different. Their designs were elegant and silver. LYRS smiled softly. The Valari fleet. Dozens of Valari ships appeared beside the human vessels. Then more hyperspace signals appeared. Ships from other Accord species began arriving. The insect diplomat whispered in shock. The entire Accord is responding. Daniel stared at the screen. Wow. The Dominion fleet was now surrounded. The alien commander spoke again, but his voice sounded different, less confident. You would risk war over one human? Captain Morales answered simply, Yes. Daniel leaned back and smiled. Well, he said quietly, I guess the galaxy is about to learn something about humans. LYRS looked at him. And what is that? Daniel's smile grew. We don't abandon our people. Outside the station window, hundreds of ships now filled the stars, and the Dominion fleet was no longer the strongest force in the system. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and it was about to regret that mistake. Space around Halcyon Orbital Station was no longer empty. Hundreds of ships now filled the dark sky. Human vessels floated beside elegant Valari ships and several other craft from the Galactic Accord. Their engines glowed softly like distant stars. The massive fleet of the Ket Dominion was no longer the largest force in the system. Inside the command center, everyone stared at the holographic display. Bright icons covered the map. Human ships, Valari ships, Accord patrol vessels. They surrounded Halcyon Station like a protective shield. Daniel Carter leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. Well, he said quietly. That escalated quickly. Beside him, LYRS watched the display calmly. Her glowing markings were bright and steady again. Not fear, not worry, something closer to pride. Across the room, the insect-like diplomat spoke slowly. I have never seen such a fast response. A technician nodded. The human communication network spread the message within minutes. Daniel smiled a little. Humans are very good at talking. The reptilian engineer crossed his arms. Talking does not win battles. Daniel shrugged. Sometimes it does. Before anyone could respond, the station speakers activated again. The voice of the Dominion commander returned. But this time, it sounded less confident. Unknown fleet, you are interfering in Dominion operations. On the main display, the Dominion warships shifted their positions. Weapon systems powered up. But they were no longer advancing. They were cautious now. From one of the human cruisers, Captain Morales responded. Her voice was calm and clear. "This is Captain Elena Morales of the Earth cruiser Liberty Dawn." Daniel leaned closer to the console to listen. Captain Morales continued, "You threaten a citizen of Earth." There was a pause. "That makes us our concern." The Dominion commander replied coldly, "The human is not important to us." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Oh, really? But he is important to the Valari strategist." The alien commander continued, "We will take him." The command center became quiet. Everyone looked at Daniel. Daniel slowly raised both hands. "Can we stop talking about me like I'm a package?" The insect diplomat ignored him. "Captain Morales," the diplomat said to the comm system, "the Dominion fleet is still powerful. We must be careful." Captain Morales replied calmly, "We are aware of that." Then she added something surprising. "We did not come here to start a war." The Dominion commander laughed harshly. "You arrived with fleet." Captain Morales answered immediately, "We arrived with friends." More ships appeared on the holographic display. Additional Accord patrol ships jumped into the system. The number of vessels protecting Halcyon Station kept growing. Inside the command center, the energy being diplomat whispered softly, "This is becoming the largest gathering of ships in this region." Daniel watched the display. "Yeah, humans have a habit of bringing people together." LYRSA looked at him with interest. "That is true." Outside the station, the Dominion fleet slowly began pulling back slightly. They were still dangerous, but they were no longer confident. The alien commander spoke again. "You would risk conflict with the Dominion over one human?" Captain Morales answered without hesitation, "Yes." The Dominion commander sounded confused. "Why?" Daniel leaned forward in his chair. "That's a good question." Captain Morales replied calmly, "Because that human is one of ours." The command center fell silent again. The simple answer surprised many of the alien diplomats. The reptilian engineer looked at Daniel. "You are not a leader." "Nope." "You are not a soldier." "Nope." "Then why are they risking so much?" Daniel smiled slightly. "Because humans don't measure importance that way." Across the display, human ships adjusted their formation. They were not attacking, but they were ready, very ready. LRS spoke quietly. "The Dominion misunderstood human nature." Daniel nodded. "They thought humans would panic." "Yes." "They thought humans would hide." "Yes." Daniel looked at the fleet of human ships protecting the station. "But humans do something different." LRS waited. "What?" Daniel smiled. "We show up, outside the station window. The stars were now filled with ships. Cargo vessels stood beside warships. Mining transports floated beside exploration craft. Even small civilian ships had joined the formation. Every type of human vessel was present. The Dominion commander spoke again. "You cannot defeat the Dominion fleet without great losses." Captain Morales answered calmly, "Maybe." There was a short pause. "But that is not the point." "What is the point?" The human captain's voice became firm. "The point is simple. You will not take one of our people." Silence followed. Even the Dominion commander did not speak for several seconds. Inside the command center, Daniel leaned back again. "Well, that sounded pretty serious." The insect diplomat whispered, "The Dominion must understand they are outnumbered." The reptilian engineer nodded slowly. "Yes, their strategic advantage is gone." LIRS watched the Dominion fleet carefully. They are calculating their options. On the display, several Dominion ships moved into a defensive formation. Their commander finally spoke again. "You believe this human is worth protecting." Captain Morales answered, "Yes." The alien commander sounded thoughtful now. "Your species is unusual." Daniel laughed quietly. "You have no idea." Another pause followed. Then the Dominion commander said something unexpected. "Very well." Several Dominion ships began turning away from the station. "We will withdraw." Inside the command center, many diplomats looked surprised. The insect diplomat spoke quickly. "You are leaving?" "Yes." The Dominion commander's voice was calm again. This conflict is no longer efficient. One by one, the dark warships began preparing their hyperspace drives. Captain Morales responded, a wise decision. The alien commander spoke one final time. Humanity has made its position clear today. Daniel leaned forward again. And what position is that? The commander answered simply, you protect your own. Daniel nodded proudly. Every time. Seconds later, the Dominion fleet jumped into hyperspace. One by one, the dark ships disappeared from the stars. The danger was gone. For a moment, the command center remained silent. Then the insect diplomat finally spoke. The Dominion retreated. The technician confirmed it. All enemy ships have left the system. Relief spread through the room. Some diplomats relaxed. Others simply stared at the massive fleet still protecting the station. Daniel stood up and stretched. Well, that was exciting. HFY looked at him. You appear very calm. Daniel smiled. I trust my people. Outside the station, the human cruiser Liberty Dawn opened a communication channel. Captain Morales appeared on the screen. She looked tired but satisfied. Halcyon Station, this is Captain Morales. The insect diplomat stepped forward. You have our gratitude. The captain shook her head. No thanks needed. She looked directly at Daniel through the screen. You okay, Carter? Daniel waved. Yeah, thanks for the rescue. The captain smiled. Don't mention it. Then she added something simple. That's what humans do. The screen went dark. Daniel turned toward HFY. Well, that was a strange day. She looked at him with calm, glowing eyes. Yes. Daniel remembered something suddenly. Wait. She tilted her head. What? You said earlier that you love me. Her glowing markings brightened again. Yes. Daniel scratched his head. I still don't know how I guessed that. She smiled softly. Perhaps humans are more observant than they realize. Daniel laughed. Or maybe I just got lucky. Outside the station, hundreds of ships slowly began leaving the system. But one thing was now clear to everyone who had witnessed the event. Humanity might be new to the galaxy, but they were already becoming something powerful. Because when it came to protecting their people, humans always showed up.